A new election campaign is about to begin in Malaysia. The country's longest-serving Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, prepares to take his ruling coalition to the polls. They might as well hold the victory parade now. They've good reason to be triumphant. The National Front coalition, dominated by Dr. Mahathir's party, the United Malays National Organisation, or Umno, has been in power for 37 years.
Adalah sangat rapat. Tidak dapat dinafikan bahawa kejayaan Malaysia ke tahap sekarang dalam semua bidang, termasuk ekonomi, adalah antaranya kerana kita mempunyai kerajaan yang sama memerintah negara ini sejak merdeka.
UMNO's long reign has indeed delivered stability and prosperity, and the people in return have delivered to UMNO their loyalty and their votes. But it's not just the will of the people that's kept them in power. They've created a system that virtually ensures they can't lose. Electorates are weighted in favour of the ruling parties. They control the newspapers, radio and TV. The activities of the opposition are curbed, and draconian laws stifle public debate. On top of all this, UMNO has built up financial resources so vast that it's coined a phrase unique to Malaysia. They call it money politics. This, as much as anything, helps keep the UMNO government in power. Prime Minister Sally Neighbour from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, are you confident about these elections?
Are we confident? We are always confident. I mean, you don't go for election when you are not confident.
In past elections, there have been widespread reports of the buying of votes. Will you try to stop that in this election?
Well, I think it's a phenomenon to be found in every country. I think in Australia too. You may not know about it, but I'm quite sure they do. But we try. Of course, we can always be successful.
What would you say has been the key to Malaysia's economic success?
All companies in Malaysia are closely associated with the government because we have a concept called Malaysia Incorporated. It is the duty of the government to be associated with the business people because in Malaysia Incorporated, the government and the private sector works together to develop this country.
Malaysia Incorporated has transformed the capital Kuala Lumpur into one of the success stories of the region, with the richest stock exchange in Southeast Asia and economic growth better than 8% a year. Dr. Mahathir's vision of seeing Malaysia join the developed world by the year 2020 looks well within reach. Average incomes have soared. Poverty has been cut from more than 50% to less than 15%. In a nation whose past has been bloodied by ethnic turmoil, there's now racial harmony.
A lot of how UMNO operates depends primarily on money.
Dr. Terence Gomez from the University of Malaya's Institute for Advanced Studies is the author of 3 books about money politics. His specialty is UMNO's corporate assets. How much corporate wealth does UMNO own or control?
Well, it's hard to quantify that amount at the moment. The figures range from 4 billion to much more. I think it's much more.
That's more than 2 billion Australian dollars.
Well, that's been built up over the past 20 years. They've gone into the hotel industry, they've gone into the banking industry, they've gone into the media, they've gone into construction, property development, they've gone into practically all aspects of the economy.
UMNO's economic clout feeds a system of political patronage that trickles down from the capital to every rural village. UMNO has made itself the champion of the Malay people. Malay is UMNO, they say, and UMNO is Malay. The economic underdogs of Malaysia, the ethnic Malays have traditionally left commerce to the Chinese and stuck to fishing and farming. Expanding their share of the country's economic wealth is UMNO's crusade. At a rural gathering, the women sing their praise to God and the government. We must achieve our economic goals, they sing, to realise the government's vision, the key to our success. The fate of every Malay is in UMNO's hands, and the party expects absolute loyalty in return.
Penternak dan nelayan seluruh negara menyokong dan mendukung sepenuhnya dasar pembangunan nasional kerajaan berikrar untuk terus bersatu dan bekerjasama dalam
Implementing government policy in the villages is the job of local UMNO men like State MP Lila Yassin. What has the government done for rural people?
So many projects government doing.
Yassin and his entourage tour the countryside, ministering to the needs of the party faithful. They travel in a style fitting for a man of this position, in a country where politicians now get the treatment once reserved for royalty.
My portfolio is develop education, information and manpower.
As State Minister for Education, one of Yassin's tasks is to hand out scholarships. The line between state and party has long since blurred. Scholarships, like many other government favours, have become a reward for political loyalty. So how do you decide who you support for a scholarship and who you don't?
The very important thing, the people must support the government first, and then the government support the people.
So the people who support the government, they
Yes.
get the scholarships?
Yes.
For a rural family like this, a scholarship is a lucrative prize, worth about a third of a year's income. Political allegiance is a small price to pay.
Tu pula macam wakil-wakil rakyat kampung kan. Dia kata elok masuk UMNO ni. Dia kata besok bila kita dah kahwin, dah beranak-anak, kata dia senang nak minta beasiswa ke apa ke, dia cakap. Macam itulah. Tapi memang digalakkan lah rakyat Malaysia ni masuk calonan UMNO ni kan.
Do you have to be an UMNO supporter to get a scholarship?
Ya. Kalau kita tak masuk dalam pilihan UMNO ni, mungkin kita tak dapat pertolongan daripada kerajaan.
What is this project?
This is the secondary school. This is the new building for the classroom.
Political allegiance also pays off for local UMNO officials. Their private companies usually get the contracts for government projects like the new local school. The chairman of the local UMNO branch, this man, has his own construction firm, which gets all of its work, he says, from the UMNO government and its authorities. His friend and colleague, another UMNO official, has the job of lobbying the government to ensure their company gets the work. If the line between party and state has blurred, then between business and politics, there's no line at all.
Tapi di samping tu kita kena cari kedudukan kita untuk makan kita. Jadi kita bila kita kata makan, kita kena kerja lah. Bila kerja kita kena cari kerja lah. Jadi kalau kita terus direct politik, 100% politik, full time, you cannot eat.
So you have to do business to survive?
Yes.
Main job is business.
Yeah. First, business lah. Dalam masa business tu, kita politik lah.
Political life in Malaysia has become a lucrative business. Tunku Razali, a prince from the northern state of Kelantan, is a veteran of the system they call money politics. He was finance minister in the UMNO government and party treasurer for 13 years. A long-time rival of Dr Mahathir, Razali challenged him for the leadership in 1987 in a move that split the party and left him in opposition. In his KL replica of the US President's Oval Office, Razali is now only too happy to discuss the workings of the party he once hoped to lead. How does money politics come into play in elections within UMNO?
Well, we've heard of payoff ranging between thousands of dollars into millions of dollars. Because the positions give them power. the positions that they are seeking. And these people really go all out in order to achieve those positions that they are fighting for.
Payoffs within Umno are so rampant that the Prime Minister himself recently called a special party conference to ban candidates for Umno positions from giving cash and gifts in return for votes. The alternative, he said, would be a government filled with and led by corrupt criminals. But the Prime Minister stopped short of calling a halt to a much more lucrative form of money politics. Prime Minister, what about the awarding of multi-billion-dollar government contracts to companies closely associated with Umno leaders? Should that be stopped too?
We think that the government and the private sector have a duty, both of them, to work together and develop the country. And therefore we cultivate the acquaintance, the friendship of the private sector, and the private sector can have access. Anybody who succeeds, immediately he is said to be well connected. But all businessmen in Malaysia are well connected with the government. That is our policy, Malaysia Incorporated.
This is the thing I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Umno's intimate relationship with business is something Tunku Razali knows a lot about. He controlled the finances of the government and the party when Umno first ventured into the corporate world. How did Umno become so rich?
Well, I think because they were granting contracts to themselves. When I say to themselves, to people who are closely associated with the people who are in power.
What sort of contracts are you talking about?
Big projects. Works program, public works, acquisitions of assets.
Of the order of how much money involved, would you say?
Well, nowadays people don't talk of thousands or millions of dollars, they talk of billions of dollars.
The most dramatic example of this is the recently completed highway that runs the length of Malaysia, 600 kilometres from the Thai border in the north to Singapore in the south. The North-South Highway is just one of the huge public works projects awarded by the Umno government to companies controlled by Umno. The contract for this job was given to what was then an obscure and ailing engineering firm, which turned out to be majority owned by an Umno holding company, whose trustees were none other than Umno's leading officials, including the Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir. The company not only got the $2 billion contract to build the highway, but its subsidiary won the right to collect the tolls for the next 30 years.
If you look at all the major privatized contracts today, the government basically has a policy of first come, first serve.
First come, first served.
Yes.
So no tenders.
Look at the major contracts today, and most of the people who win these contracts are those who are all politically linked, businessmen.
Closely linked
Yes,
with Umno.
they are all closely linked to our top Umno leaders.
We don't allow that in this country. And that people, especially children.
Umno and its coalition partners began buying up the media 20 years ago and now have their men firmly at the helm. What's the big story today?
Should be the Umno Supreme Council meeting today.
Umno Supreme Council meeting?
Yes.
The government keeps a tight rein on state-run radio and TV. And when the first commercial TV licence was granted in 1983, it went to an Umno holding company. The commercial network TV3 and the powerful New Straits Times newspaper group have since been taken over by a group of key Umno supporters. Abu Bakar is Executive Vice Chairman of the media group's parent company, Malaysian Resources Corporation. He's a long-time Umno man, formerly the Deputy Chief of Prime Minister Mahathir's Economic Planning Unit.
The idea was that regard the whole nation as a company. So private and public are not competitors but are close complementary.
It's been a winning partnership for all concerned. A subsidiary of Abu Bakar's firm was recently awarded the government contract to build a $2 billion power station. How did your company get that contract? Was there actually any kind of tender, really?
not in the sense that you said it. The way we say is negotiated tender.
Negotiated tender.
Yes.
First come, first served.
First come, first serve. You must bring an idea.
Can you understand that people see this as a classic example of patronage?
No way, nothing like that. No way. Completely false the way I see it.
Not patronage, says Abu Bakar, simply the economic miracle that Dr. Mahathir calls Malaysia Inc.
We built this country. If it had been that way, can you imagine we built a country that was in one generation of my parents who was actually a farmer, result in me heading a corporate entity? Can you tell me any society can achieve that kind of transformation with the mentality of what you have said? No way.
At their annual economic convention, the party faithful gather to celebrate what they've achieved. The guest of honour is the man who's presently driving Malaysia Inc., Finance Minister and Prime Minister-to-be Anwar Ibrahim. These are Malaysia's new rich, the ethnic Malays, Bumi Putras as they're known, in English, sons of the soil. Once the economic underdogs, they now hold a large stake in every part of this thriving economy. Their share of the country's corporate wealth has increased tenfold. They owe it all to 2 decades of positive discrimination by the Umno government. Preferential access to education, employment, finance and the stock market. There's much to sing about. But to UMNO's frustration, non-Malays still hold a majority of the national wealth. Prime Minister-to-be Anwar says there's more to be done.
Yang kita perolehi masih terlalu kecil dari apa yang sepatutnya hak kita yang patut kita perolehi.
In UMNO's crusade, there's no room for dissent. The government amended the constitution long ago, making it illegal to question the privileged status of the Malays. Anyone who dares to do so pays the price.
Things are going well for the government at the moment.
One man who did is lawyer and opposition MP Kapal Singh, best known in Australia for his role in the defence of the accused Australian drug traffickers Barlow and Chambers, hanged in Malaysia in 1986. The year after, Kapal Singh himself was behind bars. What were you arrested for?
The allegations were that I was anti-national, which is ridiculous actually. All I asked for, of course, equal rights, equal opportunity for all citizens.
Were you charged?
I was not charged. All the minister did was to order my detention for 2 years.
Kapal Singh spent 15 months in jail for challenging the government's discrimination in favour of Malays. And if you did that again now, would you be jailed again?
Of course. I'm sure they would want to. It can't be debated. You can't question it, even in Parliament.
The election will be hardest fought in the Chinese heartland of Penang, stronghold of the opposition Democratic Action Party led by Lim Kit Siang.
So this is your constituency?
Yes, this is my constituency, the hawkers.
But for all the frustration of his Chinese constituents over 20 years of discrimination, it's a fight Lim knows he can't win. The government is riding a wave of economic success, and all the odds are stacked against the opposition. They can't get media coverage, political rallies are barred, even the DAP's newsletter is banned from public sale.
Well, basically it continues to be a struggle for justice, for equality, for freedom in Malaysia.
In UMNO's Malaysia, justice, equality and freedom have been trampled in the rush to carve up the spoils of progress. As they say here, it's first come, first served. For those at the top of the queue, there's plenty to go around. The others get what's left. And for all the trappings of democracy, the election will come and go a mere sideshow to the main event of the mighty Malaysia Inc.